Hello, everyone. I'm Judith Williams, the head of people sustainability and the chief diversity and inclusion officer for SAP. And I want to welcome you to our conversation on equality, diversity, and inclusion with our guest, Evander Kane, who is a Canadian hockey player, most recently of our local San Jose Sharks. He joined the Sharks in 2018 after playing in the NHL since 2009. Welcome, Evander.
Thanks for having me, Judith. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we're so excited that you joined us. And I just want to actually dive right into the conversation. On June 8th, you launched the Hockey Diversity Alliance. And when I looked at the statement, I saw that the mission is to end racism and intolerance in hockey.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge mission, broad statement. So one question I have is, how are you going to do that? And then the second question, maybe you can answer the second one first, is why now?
Yeah, I'll answer that second question first. I think for so long, ever since I've become a member of the NHL as a player, I've noticed things throughout the years and have been on the receiving end of some racist incidents and have watched some of the fellow black players in the league and other minorities be on the end of those as well. And I think as a player and as an individual and as a person, I wasn't in the change that or the lack of change that was transpiring with our league. And I thought it would be great, especially after the Akeem Alou story in November. And then it recently, again, coming out a couple weeks before that June 8th mark you mentioned, to bring some of the black players and some of the minorities in our league together and create an independent alliance and group as players to be able to really voice and get others on board to be able to hold them accountable. And I think, to answer the first part of your question and how we're going to do that, a lot of these issues and the way we think and feel we can create changes, it starts at the top. And if the NHL is doing it, everybody else is going to do it. USA Hockey is going to do it. Hockey Canada is going to do it, and so on and so forth. And so we've been in talks with the NHL about a partnership. And the first thing that we want to integrate, especially into the minor hockey associations, are a specific set of policies that we've come up with that we feel will help eradicate racism, or at least if not eradicate it, but suppress it greatly and hold people accountable at all levels, including the higher ups and also parents. So that is our first step that we're working towards. We've been fortunate enough to have a ton of people reach out from all walks of life, not just hockey players, but people in the corporate world as well. And we're looking forward to those discussions with Hockey Canada later this week, and hopefully USA Hockey at some point next week as well.
And one of the things that you said is that you launched it independent of the league. Why did you make that decision?
We felt it would be best to be independent because we wanted to control the narrative. We didn't want to be handcuffed. We didn't want to be overruled with our ideas and our thoughts and our initiatives that we want to start and have transpire. And I think it kind of provides a nice gap to hold not only the NHL, but other associations within hockey accountable. Because we feel as a group that there's no better qualified group of players that we're going to continue to add to that have the experience, the knowledge, and the resources to talk about and combat racism in hockey.
And one of the things that I try to do in the work that we do at SAP is to have really clear policies so that we can have accountability. And so I'm wondering if you could share what types of policies or an example of one of those policies and the accountability that you're looking for in hockey.
I can share a couple, just because we haven't necessarily formally disclosed them to some of the organizations yet. but little things, and I'll talk about some of them. We have a policy on prioritizing minorities, because that's how our game's going to grow, and that's not just players. That's coaches, that's management, that's staff, that's trainers. At the same time, we obviously understand that you have to be qualified for the position, but creating opportunities for minorities to be a part of the game, not only on the ice but off the ice. And I think that's something that we're going to look at. Another thing is, when you talk about the education part of racism, educating the kids in regards to what's acceptable and what's not, being upfront with them at the beginning of those seasons, so that there's no gray area. Everything's black and white, and having a clear set of policies and disciplinary actions if you break those rules. So nobody's surprised by what transpires afterwards if you do say an on-ice slur to a certain player. What's going to happen, and the parents know what's going to happen. I think that's another thing that we want to get, another group of people we want to get involved is the parents, because you're not born racist. You're taught it, or you pick it up, and you learn those type of thoughts and ideals. So that's something we want to try to get rid of.
I know you started playing hockey when you're about 3 years old, and your dad was very instrumental in your formation. Were there any other heroes who inspired you to become, where you are? We know that role models are so important if we're thinking about getting more kids involved.
Yeah, you know what? I have to say both my parents were probably definitely my biggest supporters and role models in terms of everything they have went through. My mom's white, but marrying a black man, back at that time, there was always still that stigma, and her having a biracial son and showing up or taking me to hockey games, showing up to practice. She got funny looks as a white person as well, and I think I give a lot of credit to them, because they were the ones that gave me the knowledge and gave me that education on how things were going to go. So in a way, when I did go through certain instances where there was racism directed towards me, in a way, it didn't catch me too off guard, because my parents had almost prepared me for that. Not that that should be the case, not that that is acceptable on any grounds, but it made me mentally tougher, and it gave me some thick skin, kind of going through minor hockey. And I think, you get that chip on your shoulder. My dad always said you have to be 10 times better than any other kid just to get the same opportunity. And that was always my mindset. And I think that drove me to be an even better player, and really succeed. But at the same time, that's not what I want for my kids. I don't want them to go through that. So, and I think if you look at the group that we have, a lot of us have kids. A lot of, kids growing up, they want to be a part of the game, and we don't want them to go through the same experiences we went through.
Yeah. And I imagine that a lot of kids would have gotten discouraged, right? And
For sure. My dad teaches hockey for a living, and it's incredible how many kids he's almost saved to stay in the game, because he does work with a lot of different minorities. And the amount of talks I've had with so many kids about contemplating whether they want to quit hockey or keep playing is incredible. And it's sad, because sports is a place where kids can get away and be accepted and have fun and kind of escape their normal life, whatever's going on. And for it to be a negative in their life is the most disappointing thing of all. And I think we want to make sure that sports, specifically hockey, is a positive thing for these kids, and all are welcome. And that hasn't been the case for a long, long time, and we want to help change that.
And so if we dig in on that a little bit, how can we get more kids of color excited about playing hockey, especially here in the U.S.?
Well, we have to introduce them to the game, and the way you introduce them to the game is introducing them to players that look like them. we don't do a good enough job promoting our Black and minority players. There's so few of us, but and that's okay, for now. But instead of suppressing us, let's uplift and promote, because I'm telling you right now, if a kid sees me on a commercial or on TV or whatnot, they're gonna be like, oh wow, that guy's playing hockey. He looks like me. Maybe I can do the same thing. Because growing up as a kid, I'll tell you right now, my favorite basketball player was Allen Iverson. My favorite football player is Michael Vick. I mean, there's probably a ton of Black athletes that will echo those same sentiments. There was a reason for it, because it was, wow, that guy has some swag. That guy, is cool. He looks like me, and he's at the highest level of a sport, and he's dominating. And you want to emulate that. In hockey, we have a very select few, but we overlook them and we undervalue them. And when I say them, I'm talking about players like myself. And that's what we've done as a league for such a long time. And ever since I've been in the league, we've undervalued and overlooked the Black and the minority players in our league in order to help grow our game. It's been a complete dismissal.
And that's illustrative of the racism that you're trying to combat. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the challenges. How do we deal with the fact that hockey is actually pretty expensive, right? With one basketball, lots of kids can get together and play pretty much anywhere, but hockey's a little different. How do we deal with that hurdle?
Well, again, that really starts at the top. I think it's people putting in the necessary resources financially to do their part. We're willing to do our part as players to help with that and to educate and get on the ground and introduce the kids to the game of hockey. But it's up to the people cutting the big checks to help with that. It's up to hockey industries like Bauer and CCM, people that create this equipment, to help be a part of the solution. Because yes, hockey is a very expensive sport. We get that, but it can't be the reason and the excuse we use to not become more diverse.
Yeah, I think that's such a good point, right? We can't make up excuses, and I think that's really important. So I was trolling your Twitter a little bit. I was following you and seeing some of your recent tweets, and one of the things that really struck me is your tagline where you say, "NHL player, stand up for what you believe in," and I wonder if you could talk about what that means to you and why that's your tagline on Twitter.
Yeah, I think. I've just become, I don't want to say fed up, but I've just had enough. I've dealt with a lot of different things through the course of my career as a Black player in the NHL. And the narrative has always been skewed and not based on fact and not based on the truth. And I've bitten my tongue a lot and just kind of kept it moving. And for me, I had enough, and I wanted to use my platform and my voice more powerfully, and I'm going to continue to do that. I mean, this is just the beginning, really, but it's not just about me. It's about obviously these type of issues, not only in hockey but in society. And for me, it's just something that I want to encourage other players to do, because hockey is such a sport of conforming and not stepping maybe outside the box or not ruffling any feathers and just doing what you're told. And I think that's a negative. That's something that, back in the day might have been okay, but, in today's world, you just can't have that anymore.
So what do you say to those who might criticize you? We saw LeBron James get that response, shut up and dribble, or others who say, well, why do we want to hear from a hockey player? What response do you have for those folks?
Well, it just speaks to how ignorant and how uneducated and how ridiculous their views are, because there's what qualifies you from, or what differentiates a hockey player than a plumber from having an opinion on politics or social injustice. Everybody has a job, and everybody else has an opinion. I will say some are much better than others, but and that's okay. I think it's important for people in positions of power, and athletes are considered those in that group, to use their voice for the betterment of not only themselves, not only their family members, not only their league, but for society in general. I think you're seeing more and more of that. And the best part is a lot of these people that make these comments, there's not a chance in hell that they would ever say that directly to our face. Or if they were to, they would word it much differently and be a lot more polite. Like if I was doing an interview with a Laura Ingraham right now, I don't know if she would say that to, or if LeBron was, would she say that to LeBron? Because LeBron would have then the opportunity to bark back. And I think, a lot of these people are truly cowards, and that's the way I look at it.
Mhm. Yeah, I think that's really interesting. We see that the platform emboldens people to do things that they really know that they wouldn't say to someone's face, and I think that's both it's one of the perils of our technology. I wonder if you're here now in San Jose and Silicon Valley, but you've also played in places like Buffalo or Winnipeg, and would you have felt I would say, would you have been as vocal, or were you as vocal when you were in Buffalo or Winnipeg as you are now in San Jose?
Yeah, so I started in Atlanta as an 18-year-old, and then our team got sold, and the team had to move to Winnipeg. So, there was a massive contrast in that. Atlanta, it's such a, I call it Black Hollywood. There's more Black people I've ever seen in my entire life, growing up in Vancouver and then moving to Atlanta as an 18-year-old. I'm thinking, wow, this is new for me, and it was a lot of fun, and it was great. And I think, and I won't speak about necessarily some of the other organizations I played for, but with San Jose and coming here, and with the ownership group that we have, and Doug Wilson as a general manager, and really our team of players that we have, it's a real, you get a real comfort with this organization, and I feel that in a way that there has been a little bit more comfort for me in terms of being able to come out and speak out, and speak my mind and voice my opinion. And having that support of the organization definitely helps you as a player. Now, would I say that if I didn't have that support from an organization, would I not be as outspoken? No, but it's definitely it just makes you feel better, that knowing that somebody has your back, and I think that's the bottom line, right? It's all about coming together, sticking together, and having that shared goal in order to create real change.
Yeah, it's really interesting. One of the articles I read in preparation for this said that in forming the Diversity Alliance, you talked to Colin Kaepernick, right? And I wonder what type of conversation that. And I thought of that when you thought about sort of the not having your back, as it were.
Yeah. It was great to be able to talk to him. And it's so funny, everybody's talking about how hindsight's 2020, and you got a lot of people that were against Colin 3 years ago. Now finally seeing the light, for whatever reason that may be. But it was great to be able to talk to him. It was great for us to be able to hear some of the challenges he had throughout creating his campaign. It was great to hear about some of the knowledge that he received from others as he was going through it. I think his biggest message to us was staying united and sticking together. And I think that's something that we've, it's only been a short little while here since we formed the Alliance, but that's something that we've continued to preach on a daily basis, and will continue to do so as we continue to bring more players from all different backgrounds, and more people into our Alliance.
That's great. And one of the things that you also said that was really striking to me is speaking out. But I know that you don't just speak out. You've done a lot of investment in the San Jose community, and I'd love to hear about some of those activities and that commitment.
Yeah, right from when I first got here, I really enjoyed the community. I was treated fantastic when I first got here, and still have, obviously. And I just fell in love with the city, and the passion for hockey. in the city. It was surprising, being a place in California where hockey's not maybe the most popular, but to see the passion of the city and the community and the support that we get as players for the Sharks, it made me want to step out in the community and do my part for them. And I remember last year or this past season, I went to a school out in Oakland and visited with a bunch of kids, probably about 100 kids, and just introduced them to the game of hockey and kind of educated them on the game. And we ended up playing some ball hockey, and it was predominantly a large group of black kids, boys and girls, and that was their first time playing ball hockey. And it's incredible to see the enjoyment on their face, when they've been introduced for the very first time and how much fun they're having on it. And it just makes you think, boy, if these kids really got a real opportunity to play, if they had the interest and the passion, my goodness, what could our league look like, 10 years from now? And I think you've seen that with other sports. You've seen that with the NFL. You've seen that with the NBA. You go back to the 1940s, 1950s, the NBA was predominantly white. Now, it's 60, 70% black. And the same with the NFL, it's at 50-50. You didn't see that back then. Hockey looks the same in the 1950s than as it does in 2020. That's not progress at all. It's not. And you're kidding yourself if you're going to go out and preach that there is progress. Yes, there's been incremental progress, but nothing drastic, nothing substantial, nothing you can, tip your cap to. So I think that's where we want to put our foot down and make our mark as an alliance as well.
And one question that we've gotten from our audience, our virtual audience, is how can your fans and or fans support these efforts? What are some concrete ways that fans can actually support the work that you're doing with the Hockey Diversity Alliance?
I think just continuing to spread the message. As of right now, we will have our website up and launched probably in the next 2 weeks. So that's something that fans will be able to go to, and we'll make sure that that message gets out there when our website is up and running. And it'll be a great opportunity to answer for fans' questions to get answered by going to the website and seeing what we're doing, and we'll constantly updating that. But at the same time, just their support and being a part of this movement in hockey, I think is important, because you've seen it in society. You've seen it with the George Floyds and the Breonna Taylors and people coming together. And I think the hockey community and the fans specifically need to come together, because as great as our fans are, we need more of them, and we need more of them to, we need a more diverse fan base. Because I'll be honest, anytime I see the NHL, they'll tweet something or they'll post something on Instagram, and it's unfortunate. There's so many negative comments from fans, or maybe they're not fans of the game, but there's so much negative feedback and pushback when it comes to promoting any sort of diversity, when it comes to promoting minorities in our league, when it comes to combating social injustice. And I think we have to do a better job, and fans that are educated, the great fans that we have, they have to help us in that fight to push back against some of those people who have that type of mentality.
Yeah, I think that is so important, right? And you sort of articulate that fans have a voice here as well, and that we need to have more speech to perhaps drown out some of those other voices. Yeah. If you think about the recent circumstance with COVID-19 and how this is impacting hockey, what's been the impact, and does that have anything to do you think with the timing of what we're seeing going on with all of the uprisings as well?
Yeah, it's incredible. You have I said it before, you have a pandemic worldwide, and for about 2.5 weeks, it's a footnote on the news because of what's happened in society with another senseless murder by a police officer of a black man. And I think, you can be a believer if you say everything happens for a reason, and maybe this has happened for a reason during this time. And I think when you talk about timing, for myself, there's no better time. We're not doing anything, in terms of, we're not playing hockey right now. Why not come together? Why not be proactive and use this time to our advantage, to create something, to hopefully create a better environment specifically for youth hockey. And I touched on the policies, and why that's really at the forefront is because we feel we should be able to implement those policies before the next hockey season starts, both in Canada and the US, at the minor league levels, because of COVID and it pushing a lot of different things back. So we're trying to use such a negative thing like COVID, to our advantage, in that aspect of what we're doing.
Yeah, as I heard the Obama administration say, always take advantage of a crisis, right? Another question we received, it can be hard to play a sport where you're an outsider, and that happens in many sports like swimming, crew, and many others, as well as hockey, and we need to deal with it at very young ages. Have you thought about how your association can also speak to those other sports and be a role model, not only for hockey?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the great things that we're going to become is an outlet, for everybody, but specifically the youth, in creating an opportunity where if they are experiencing racism, if they are going through tough times, we can be that outlet to that parent or that kid who doesn't know what to do or doesn't know how to go about a certain thing. And I think for us as Black players, we went through it by ourselves. We had to tell our parents. We had nobody to go to. But to be able to talk to a player like Wayne Simmons or talk to a player like Joel Ward about their experiences through minor hockey, and maybe something they're going through at that specific time, I think is a great benefit. And to answer the question about other sports, we want to create diversity among everybody. But obviously, we play hockey, and there's never been a group of players ever to come together to tackle the issue of racism, and that's where we're going to start, and we'll see where that takes us.
So one of the things that you just said is as a Black player, and I wonder if you could comment on how you feel about being a Black hockey player, or that people will sort of call you out as a Black hockey player.
Yeah, it's funny. I think we did an interview the other day, and Anthony Duclair, we were on a Zoom call together, and he actually mentioned this. He said, it's funny how we're Black hockey players, but a lot of people, they'll say, oh, you're the whitest Black guy I know, or you're not Black, you're white. And I honestly, I don't know how to feel about it. It goes back to kind of what I talked about in terms of conforming and that pressure that you get early on, as you come up through the ranks in hockey, to conform, to be a part of what everybody else is, to not be different. And I think as Black people, we're full of culture. We have that swag. We enjoy that part of it, and that's frowned upon in our league. And I think early on, I got a lot of pushback, a lot of negative flack from a lot of different people, including fans, because I enjoyed that part of sports. Sports is an entertainment business. You have to promote the player. You don't fall, like as a kid growing up, you don't fall in love with a team. You fall in love with a player, and then you become a fan of that player, and then you like that team because your favorite player plays on that team. That's how it works as a kid. And I don't think people or adults really understand that who haven't played sports and fell in love with it. So as a Black player in the NHL, it's different. If I played a different sport, it would be normal. I was in an elevator one time, and a woman walks in, And she's like, "Oh, you look like an athlete." I said, "Yeah, okay." She's like, "Do you play basketball?" "Nope." "Football?" "Nope." "Baseball?" "Nope." "Tennis?" "Nope." She went as far to say cricket. Hockey didn't even come to her mind. You know what I mean? Like, that's incredible. Like, I'm thinking, well, you think you'd rattle off the first four major sports, right? Nope. Hockey didn't even come to her mind. And that's the problem right there. We have to grow our game. We have to promote the minorities and the black players we have in our game at the highest level, because that's how we're truly going to grow the game among the youth, and really among not even just youth, but just the black communities and the minority communities in general. You know, there's so many people you'll meet or I'll meet, and they find out I'm a hockey player, or we're in conversation like, oh, now you have a new fan. Now you have a new fan. Just because they meet you, they see you, they get to know you. Now that's how you create fans. And if they can't see you, I don't blame them. How are they supposed to know? And we're not visible enough with the minorities we have in our league.
Yeah, that's important. The visibility is really important. I also want another question we received from the virtual chat is there was a lot of buzz when you called out Sidney Crosby and other stars to speak up. And while he's issued a statement, what would you like to see him and other athletes do as a next step, how they can support?
Yeah, when I called out, or when I mentioned Sid, I wasn't necessarily calling him specifically out as much as I named him by name. I was using him and Tom Brady as examples, because they're at the top of their sport, and they have massive platforms, and they have a big group of people who look up to them and listen to them, and that's a credit to both of them. At the same time, we need you to use your platform. We need you to bring the people that follow you to mesh with the people that follow guys like me. And I thought it was great that he made a statement. I believed that it was from him. Those were his words. But I'll be honest, there was probably 100 statements that were made by players, which is great. But it's hard to kind of dissect which statements were genuine or were for the right reasons. Were you making a statement because, they were making statements because they were pushed. There's players like myself, players like JT Brown, everybody in our lines pushing guys to speak out. And it became comfortable, and there was an element of comfort in, okay, maybe it's okay. At the same time, there's 700 players in the league, and if you look at the 100 statements that were made, 80 of them, 90 of them all sounded very, very similar. And I think it's great to make statements. It's great to voice your opinion. It's great to get out there, but I'll be honest. It feels like there's some people that want to just be on the right side of history or the right side of the fence for maybe not necessarily the right reasons. And I think, and there's a lot of us that feel that way. You look at a player like Jonathan Toews and what he said, clearly from the heart, clearly meaningful and real. And I think those are the type of guys that we want to have more of and need in order to create that real change. But at the same time, we cannot continue to overlook and undervalue us as minorities in the league, because we've been through it. We understand what those kids are going through. We understand it because we've experienced it all. And when you bring a bunch of guys together, there's nothing that we haven't seen as a group.
It's interesting. There's what you highlighted, that 700 people and maybe 100 people have spoken out, right? So there's that. Do you also have any folks who are saying, hey, we want to support the work that you're doing with these younger kids, and we want to work in the community as well? Or is it all just at the level of statement that you're seeing the allyship?
No, I've had, I think we all have had, a lot of people reach out, discreetly and talk about how they want to be a part of it. And I'll just use Robin Leonard for an example. He was an ex-teammate of mine in Buffalo, and he reached out to me and talked about how he wanted to be a part of it, and what he could do to help, and how he was just wanted to help. Didn't have to be official, didn't have to be a part of the alliance. He just wanted to help, and whatever he could do. And I think that's fantastic. I think it's great to see players like that. At the same time, we are trying to get off the ground here with what we're doing, and we're going to figure out how to bring those players that truly want to be a part of what we're doing into the fold.
I hope that you'll get a lot of them excited to join your fold. I know we hear from a lot of people who in our own organization at SAP who are like, I don't know what to do. What can I do? And so I wonder what lessons we can take from you that we could extend to organizations like SAP or other organizations where people might work.
Yeah, I mean, I think really it's just about listening. I know a lot of people, especially at the top, feel that, okay, what's done is done. It's in the past. How can we move forward? But in a way, you have to listen to people's stories. You have to listen to their experiences and what they've gone through in order to truly move forward, because you have to get an understanding of where they're coming from. If you truly don't understand the issues and the experiences that they have gone through, you're not going to be able to go about it in the right way. And I think that's something that we've been preaching in a lot of these meetings we've had. And I think it's really important for people that haven't gone through some of the things that especially the Black community has gone through, to listen, to have an interest. Because let's be honest, we'll go back to hockey. The only reason that there is an interest is because there's not a choice. They were uninterested for tens of years. Well, ever since I've been in the league for 11 years, they've been uninterested. And now because there's a major killing on the news, now because there is an issue with Akeem Alou, they've been forced to take an interest in these issues. And now it's time for them to listen. And the people that they need to listen to are us. And that's the bottom line.
I think you're so right. It's important that they listen and that they learn. One question that I'll say is haven't we seen this before, where there's an incident and there's a lot of attention and there are a lot of statements? What makes this different?
I think it makes it different because it's going to affect people's bottom line. And the bottom line is money. And I know it sounds horrible, but that's one of the big reasons I believe it is going to change, because it has to. They don't have a choice, because if it doesn't, it's going to affect their pocketbook. And you're going to see, I'll just use hockey as an example. If you look at the NBA and the NFL, you have LeBron James making $40 million a year. You have Connor McDavid in our league, who's equally as talented at his sport as LeBron James, making $12 million a year. Okay. Why is there such a disparity? It's arguably either one, like who's greater. And it's because of revenue. And the reason that the NBA creates more revenue is because they're a more diverse sport. They promote their players. They market their players. They sell their players. The NHL doesn't. The NHL is not diverse. The NHL does not market their players well. They don't market the right players at all. And if we don't start changing some of those things we're doing, we're going to continue to get passed. We're going to continue to get doubled up with our revenues generated per year. And you're going to see other sports and organizations passing us. You're going to see MLS soon passing us. You're going to see esports passing us. And that's unacceptable, because hockey is the greatest game in the world, as biased as I may be. It's the hardest sport to play. It's the most intricate sport to play, and I think it has the best athlete. So for me, I'm thinking, why are we not on these same levels? It's unacceptable. And I think they are starting to realize that, because the last thing they want to do is to have hockey move out of the top four. We've been hovering around fourth forever in terms of popularity, in terms of revenue. I think they're understanding that that might start to slip, definitely not grow, if we don't change what we're doing to market our game.
So ultimately, it's all about, I mean, there's the right thing to do, but there's also the right thing to do for the bottom line.
Yeah, I hope that it can be a nice mixture of both. I feel there's definitely some people that their bottom line doesn't matter. They want to do the right thing, but let's be honest, with the people that run a lot of these leagues and organizations, they have to be pushed and they have to be nudged. And this is another moment in history where hopefully the nudge is big enough to push them in the right direction.
So there's the movement in hockey, which I can see you making really positive steps for. Do you think that these sort of movements that we're seeing in hockey or in organizations are going to translate to changing some of the things that we're seeing in the street with policing, right? Will the progress be in sync, or will it be related, I guess is my question.
In a way, I hope it's expedited. Maybe more than sports. Obviously that's a major issue in society, and that trumps anything to do with sports. So it's unfortunate, because I know a lot of police officers. I have some really good friends who are police officers, and they're great people, and 99% of them, they're there and doing the right things for the right reasons. But just like I touched on about accountability in regards to the sports world, and us, kind of being another layer of that as an alliance, we need police officers, male and female, to hold each other accountable. If you see something that somebody's doing that they shouldn't be doing, we need to hold them accountable. You need to intervene. You need to, to step in, and that couldn't have been more highlighted with the George Floyd murder. It's incredible that for 9 minutes, nobody had the common sense to maybe say, hey, we should stop this, or intervene, or get that idiot off his neck. Like, that's what we need to hold each other more accountable, and that's no different in the police force. And I think there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of displays that you've seen even in recent weeks of other officers doing that. It's great, but it has to continue, and not just that's in all areas. Let's be honest, some police departments are a lot worse than others, depending on which part of the country you're in. So there has to be some serious reform. And I think training is so important as well. I saw a statistic the other day talking about how long it takes to become a police officer in the US versus some of the other countries. And it was stifling. The disparity in the amount of time it requires in order for you to train properly to become a police officer, let's say in Denmark or Sweden or some of these other countries, comparatively to the US. And I think that's an important part. There also has to be a much broader, complete database for police officers in the U.S. You can't get fired here in California and then go shoot off to Alabama and become a cop for whatever you did up here. That can't happen. There has to be a way or a database to make sure that you're hiring, people that are qualified and there to do the job to the best of their ability the right way. So, and again, 99% of those officers are fantastic, but it's that 1% that's giving them the horrific name and tarnishing their badge. And that's where I'm thinking they need to get fed up with those people and get rid of them and weed them out and bring them to the light so we can get rid of them. And that's going to create a much happier society and relationship between the public and police.
Yeah, there's so much there to what you said. I mean, it's accountability, definitely important, the training, the re-education, right? Making sure that folks don't feel under threat in that role. One thing as I was again preparing to chat with you, I saw that you've shared publicly a lot of or multiple experiences of racism that you experienced in the league. And I'm wondering if you ever had any negative experience with the police stereotyping you or perhaps making assumptions.
I have. Oh yeah, I have. Would you like me to share? Is that what you're asking?
I am.
Um, mm, well, okay. I'll tell you about one story. I was actually in Beverly. This would have been 5 years ago, maybe. Yeah, 5 years ago. 20, yeah, about 5 years ago, and I had shoulder surgery. Yeah, this is right when I got traded to Buffalo. I had shoulder surgery. I was doing my rehab in Beverly Hills, and I was coming from a friend's house, and I had a white Ferrari at the time, and I was in shorts and a t-shirt, okay, and flip flops. And it's about 11:30 at night. And I'm driving home, and I'm coming down. Um, what street was it? I'm coming in Beverly Hills in the flats, and I see these three police officers just jet by me, and I'm like, "Oh, what's going on there?" Then I would see them in the rearview mirror. They all made U-turns, and I'm like, next thing you know, I'm getting pulled over. And I'm like, I have no idea what I'm getting pulled over for. And so I pull over, and they're all lined up behind me because I'm looking in my rear view and in my mirror, side mirror, and I hear this sound. And what's going on? I'm waiting for the guy to come up to the window, and he's on the megaphone saying, "Step out of the vehicle." And I'm thinking, what the hell is going on here? And he says, "Step out of the vehicle with your hands up." So I step out of the vehicle, turn off my car first, step out of the vehicle, hands are up. I'm facing away from the cops, so I went back to the cops. When I took a quick look behind me, I got four officers pointing guns at me.
Hmm.
I'm in a white Ferrari in Beverly Hills. I'm in shorts, flip flops, and a t-shirt, and I got, I don't know, four or five guns getting pointed at me. They asked me to get on my knees, get on my stomach, put my hands on my back. They come in, they put me, and I'm asking the whole time, "What are you arresting me for? What is going on? What? I'm at what?" And they're not telling me anything. They said, "We'll tell you in a minute. We'll explain to you in a minute." So I get cuffed. They sit me on the side of the on the road, and I'm thinking, like, "Geez, this is not what I need right now." Like, and we're in Beverly Hills, there's paparazzi. I'm like, what is going on here? And they said, "You match the description of a burglary call we had." And I said, "Match the description of a burglary call? You got to be kidding! You got to be like." I'm thinking like did I steal the Ferrari or what's going on here? Like burglary call. And I said, I said, I just came from a buddy's house, and I'm literally 2 blocks away from my apartment. And they are sitting there talking to me, "No, you match the description, blah, 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 blah." And they said, "We're going to have to go up to the house to make sure that everything's okay." So this female officer takes off, and she leaves, and she comes back maybe 25. So I'm standing there for about 25 minutes, still in cuffs. And they said, "Oh, sorry, this obviously this was a mistake. This wasn't you." And I'm thinking, so you guys can just pull me over, not even ask for my ID, not check me out, not do anything, not ask me any questions, not respond to what I'm asking you and why I'm face down on the pavement here in the middle of the street with guns pointing at me. You're good to go, sir. That's it. So you're just allowed to, like, it was I was so infuriated. It was incredible because, yeah, I'm a NHL player. I'm a professional athlete. I have a nice car. I'm in a nice part of town, but it goes back to, stories that my dad told me. And, what if I didn't have any of it when he didn't have any of what I had, and I'm still getting pulled over? I can't imagine what's really going on in some of the other areas, and that infuriated me. And that's why I'm so passionate about, you know, these type of reforms and these type of changes, and it's unfortunate. It really is, and that's just one story.
Thank you for sharing that. That was very evocative. And I wrote a blog piece, and a friend of mine posted on Facebook. He said, Black men, describe the first time you had a police officer point a gun in your face. And within minutes, he had over 200 responses. And so I assumed, without knowing you, that you would also be able to answer that sort of question. And it's very sad that that's experienced by Black men. So thank you for sharing that with us. I want to end on a lighter note. And so I know that you've not been playing hockey. We've all been locked up. So
yeah, no, I haven't been doing anything in terms of physical activity.
How are you staying in shape?
The golf course is trying to keep the core tight. You know what? It's been a busy time, believe it or not, with kind of everything that's going on. But yeah, it sucks that it obviously sucks. We're not going to be playing hockey and finishing off the season. That's a member of the Sharks, and we're still unsure when the next season is going to start and all that time off. So it's unprecedented times. I'm going to try to get some workouts in over the next couple of months, obviously. But yeah, it's difficult because ice really isn't even available to skate on if I wanted to. So I'm just kind of in a wait and see mode, like a lot of other people are across the world. So just trying to enjoy what I can and work on the golf game a little bit. That's what I've been doing. I enjoy it.
Has your handicap been going down?
It has been going down, actually. Yeah, it has been going down. It's actually funny. The less I play, the more it goes down. The more I play, it kind of stays where it's at.
Oh, that's funny. And when hockey comes back, do you think it'll be the same? How do you feel about playing without fans?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's going to look like. Obviously playing without fans will kind of bring you a little bit back to your minor hockey days. But I think hopefully I'm optimistic.
So I guess as long as you're playing the game.
Yeah, I think we'll get fans back in the building hopefully by next season, and I look forward to hockey getting back to where it was and back to the way it used to be. I don't think there's going to be any drastic changes because of the COVID.
That's cool. And I would be remiss if I didn't ask for the ladies who are watching about your participation in the ESPN body issue a couple of years ago.
Oh yeah.
Talk about exposure for a hockey player. What was that experience like, and what made you decide to do it?
I think I thought it was a great opportunity to do something. Obviously proud of my body and take a lot of pride in it, and it's a great way to showcase not just hockey players, but hockey players and us as athletes. Obviously, it was a little interesting when you got 35 people at a photo shoot and they're all staring at you butt naked. My wife was there actually too, and it actually made it more funny because she was there and she was cracking up actually, and they had a makeup girl that was really diving into her job, if you will, and it was a little weird to at the beginning, but I started actually drinking a little bit after the first half hour, and then it was fine.
Something like alcohol.
If you want the behind the scenes and the truth, that's what I had a couple of beer and everything was good. Once they saw everything the first time, there's nothing else to hide. So.
Yeah, you were all out there. Well, it was a very appreciated by many adoring fans, I'm sure. And we're going to close. This has been a great conversation, but I have one slightly question I always ask hockey players, which is, do you have all your original teeth?
I do. Yeah, I do.
That's impressive. That tells us a lot.
I chipped the one front one when I was 15, but it was just very small, so I got it filled. But yeah, I got all my originals. Let's knock on wood and keep it that way.
Oh, that makes you unique among hockey players in more than one way, not just in terms of the Diversity Alliance. Well, I really want to thank you for this hour. I've enjoyed the conversation. I know everyone who was listening also enjoyed the conversation. So thank you very much. And also thank you for what you're doing for the Diversity Alliance. I think it's a really important initiative. And I actually have seen historically that sports do push society. Once we see things in our athletes and heroes, we suddenly see the dialogue changing. So I know that this will make a difference. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on, Judith. It was great talking to you.